Hi everyone, it's Emily Wade here from Brave Little Pig. I'm just going to run through a very quick process of designing an infographic today using Canva. There are lots of other design programs and platforms that you could use for this, of course, and I've linked a couple of those in the blog post that goes with this video. So anything that I mentioned throughout the blog post will be linked in the description below. There's also some other design platforms that you could try, and there's also a fantastic color picking tool that is online based on a color wheel, and it actually helps you to choose colors that complement each other and work well together. So I'll be linking to that as well. So firstly, when you start to design an infographic, which is of course a graphic designed to convey information, you may be doing this for your blog, you might be doing it for a social media platform or other online publishing purpose. The first thing to consider is who is your audience, and that is going to be central to all of the decisions that you make from here on in when it comes to your design. And the other thing that you need to have really well formulated at this stage is the information that you want to put into your infographic. So in this case, I'm just going to be summarizing the key points from the blog post that goes with this video, just about infographic design tips. And I know that I have 5 key points that I want to communicate, and that is going to guide my choice of template. So when we're on Canva to start with, of course, there's lots of different categories for templates, and we're going to go and have a look at the infographic section. So you can see here that Canva does divide these up into different subcategories, some that are meant for educational purposes or business, etc. I find that actually it's a good idea to keep an open mind and look through and choose more based on the information that you want to convey and who your target audience is. So when I'm going through and making a decision about an infographic, I'm thinking first and foremost about how many sections does it have, what sorts of information are there already there on the template, and can I either use it as it is or make slight adjustments to make it suit my purposes. And also I consider the colors. So if you have some particular colors that you use in your brand already, that's a really good starting point. If you haven't really established some colors that you are using regularly, then have a look at others that you've used within the content that you're creating to go with the infographic. And in this case, I've actually found a template here that has already featured some of the colors that I've got in the blog post as well. And the way that I highlight links on my blog is actually using a similar color to this pink here as well. So I've decided that based on the purpose, the sorts of information that I want to convey, the number of sections that there are already here on this infographic, and the colors, that this is the template that is best suited to my purposes. So once you've chosen your template, I just zoom in so that I can work with it more easily. A couple of things that I've noticed with this initially is, and I apologize for any noise if it's coming through in the background, is that the text is quite small, and I know that I'm going to be embedding this on my blog, and that's what I found with a few of these templates, particularly those that are text heavy. When you actually put them on a blog post, people will have to zoom right in to read them, and if it looks a little bit too hard to read, they might not even engage with it at all. So you do need to consider what will be best suited to your audience, what is likely to attract them, and how easily they can engage with it. So I'm going to make a few adjustments to text sizes and the amount of text on the infographic to help with that. The first thing, of course, is to title your infographic, and I'm not going to go through, don't worry, I'm not going to run through every single change that I make here, but I'm just showing you some key things. So of course, anywhere that there is text, you can customize that just by clicking in the field. One thing that I wanted to show you just to demonstrate how you can maintain balance in a template is, in this case, I don't need statistics. I haven't got a study that I am trying to summarize for my audience. I'm just summarizing some general tips. So one way of maintaining balance and keeping this element here in one sense, but taking away that percentage, is to actually go to the elements section on Canva and search for I, because I thought this first bit of text is actually going to be talking about the fact that infographics are fantastic for grabbing your audience's visual attention and communicating quite a volume of information very quickly. So I thought having an eye there really helps to reinforce that point. It represents attracting attention. So when I go through and I've searched for eye, you can see there's quite a few options come up there. I have a Canva Pro account, so I could choose any of these, but do beware if you don't have a paid account, just make sure that before you fall in love with any elements that you check that you can access them with the free account. And in this case, I'm using a free element anyway. So I'm going to use this eye, and I'm going to put this here. And before I delete the other part, the circle from the template, I'm actually going to position this and make sure it's the same width as the element that's already there. So you can see the guidelines come up. I'm centering that in relation to the text beside it, and I'm also making sure it's the same width. And then I'm going to click on the other element and hit delete to get rid of that. The other thing that I can do to customize this so that it fits in more with the template is to actually pick a different color for the eye rather than blue. And a fantastic feature of Canva that hasn't always been there but is now is that it will automatically give you a selection of colors that are already featured in the design template itself. So what I can do is actually choose a color that I think looks okay from those colors. Now, I mentioned in the blog that usually with most designs, 2 or 3 colors is about the maximum number that work well together. You'll see that in this template there was actually quite a few more than 3, but that's because there's some blends used here, and it still works. Oh, there's the other 2 eyes. We'll get rid of those. It still works quite nicely. But as a general rule, you don't want too many colors. You want to repeat those colors throughout the design, and also repeat similar types of elements to really create a balanced design. And that's why I recommend choosing a template that you don't have to make too many changes to for your purposes. So just as one more example of how you can do this, again, I don't need these percentages here. But because they're part of the template, I'm actually going to just change those to be the same. You don't have to change them so they are at the same level, but I just like the uniformity of doing that. You could change, say, the top and bottom to being the same, and then the other one at a different level just for visual interest. But I'm going to change them all to 50%, and I'm actually turning off this label. So watch what happens over here when I turn that off. The percentage disappears. So these go from being part of a communication strategy to just being decorative. And yes, of course, they would be a fantastic tool if I did have data that I wanted to communicate. And if I took them away, it would really impact on the balance and the overall aesthetic appeal of the design itself. So that's just one more tip. So I'm going to go through and finish editing this template now, and then I will show you the finished product and just a couple of tips when you are ready to download. Okay, so here we are with the finished design, and I just wanted to run through a few tips before I download it. So I've just moved myself over to the other side of the screen so that you can see the download button. I always recommend downloading rather than just sharing directly, because then you have the file and you can reuse it across different platforms. But the main thing I wanted to mention here was that you've got some different options for file types to download, and I always go for PNG. If I've got a particular purpose and I want a really small file, then I might choose JPEG. But what I actually do is actually go with PNG at the recommended size or even bigger than recommended, and then I resize it in Photoshop myself. But the key things to consider before you download are what is the required size and resolution, etc., that you need for the platform that you're publishing on. Most social media sites and website themes will have somewhere in their documentation what size is best for particular types of posts, and you can use that as a guide. If you can't find that, then the best thing to do is just to download your design at the recommended size, upload it to the site and test it. before you go ahead and either make changes to download again or just use it as it is. So choosing the file type is the main thing you'll have to make a decision about here. There is the video option too, because there's quite a few animated elements now in Canva. So if you've used an animated element, for example, when I searched for eye, there was quite a few that came up there that we could have used. Then you download some sort of video file or GIF so that that can display as a moving image. But those are the key things to keep in mind. So hopefully some of that information has been helpful. Of course, anything that you do online is a process of learning by doing. So the best way to get the hang of all of this sort of stuff is to start playing around with it yourself. Some of those tips might help you with things such as balance and making decisions about what suits your purpose and your audience, and that's super important for any content that you're publishing online. And if you've got any questions or comments or feedback, I'd love to hear them in the comments below, or you can head over to my blog at Brave Little Pig or connect with me on Twitter at Emily Grace Wade. That will be below as well. And of course, all of these things are just tips that I've picked up along the way. I'm not a qualified graphic designer. I've worked in design and a professional photographer for many years and now teach digital media. So these are things that I've picked up along the way, and hopefully they'll be a little bit helpful for you too. So thanks everyone. See you soon online.